Topic 6. Fractions, percentages and decimals. Expressing one quantity as a fraction as another. Now what we are familiar with is if we have a test and we score 38 in the test and it was out of 40, one of the things that we do with that is we write it as 38 out of 40, and then from there we can change that into percentage. And what we're doing there is we're putting the score we have out of the total, and that is actually written as a fraction. So although we normally read that as 38 marks out of 40, it's the same idea as the fraction 38/40ths. And then we know that if you divide the 38 by the 40, that'll change it into a decimal, and multiply them by 100 will change it into a percentage. So we've been doing that for homeworks and tests for a long time. So several quantities can be divided into equal parts. So there are 7 days in a week. So 1 day is 1/7 of a week. 4 days would be 4/7 of a week. And that's because we're looking at 4 days out of the 7. So to write one quantity as a fraction of another, first make both quantities the same unit. Then put the first over the second. And then we've got a fraction. And the only thing would be to simplify it. So in my test that I scored earlier, I got 38 out of 40 in. We can divide top and bottom by 2 to get 19/20. So example 1, express the first quantity as a fraction of the second, so 25 centimetres and 125 centimetres. What we can see there, both in the same unit, so we've got that part done. Then we need to put the first as a quantity over the second, so that's 25 over 125. So now we've got a fraction and we need to try and simplify it. So we can divide top and bottom by 5, and that simplifies to 5 over 25. And again, we can divide top and bottom by 5 to get 1 over 5. So 25 out of 125 is 1/5. Example 2, express the first quantity as a fraction of the second. Now what we can see, we've got 120 grams and 4 kilograms. So those are different units, so we need to change those, and we could change into kilograms, and this would be 0.12 kilograms and 4 kilograms. But if we did that, then our fraction, which is 0.12 over 4, isn't very nice. So it's much easier then to change the 4 kilograms into 4,000 grams. So now we've got 120 over 4,000. We can simplify by dividing through by 10, and we get 12 over 400. 12 and 400 are both divisible by 4, so we can express that as 3 over 100. Now we could have done it with the 0.12 over 4. We could have multiplied top and bottom by 10 to leave it as 1.2 over 40, and we could have multiplied by 10 again to get 12 over 400, and then that simplifies to 3 over 40. So we could do it either way, but it's much easier to express the 4 kilograms in terms of the smaller unit of grams. To find the fraction of a quantity, this can be done using our knowledge of multiplying fractions. So in the previous chapter we had looked at the word of means multiply, and again we've got that here where of and multiply. So if we're looking for a fifth of something, then we'd do a fifth multiplied by the amount. And as we have looked at before, if we've got a mixed number, we need to first of all change that into an improper fraction or a top-heavy fraction. So if we had 2 1/3, we'd have to change that into 7/3. And then we should carry out the calculation because we should know how to multiply fractions. And just a reminder on that, to multiply fractions, we try to cancel top and bottom. We don't ever cancel sideways. And we also then multiply tops together and then bottoms. So that's how we multiply fractions together. So we've got a couple of examples here. So 2/5 of 125. So that's first of all going to be 2/5 multiplied by 125. And we've got 2/5 of a whole number, so we need to put that as a fraction, and it's going to be 125 over 1. So now we need to look and see where we can cancel, and we can see that both 125 and 5 are divisible by 5. So we can divide through by 5, and that will leave 25 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. There's nowhere else we can cancel, so we multiply across the top and across the bottom. So we get 2 times 25 over 1 times 1, which is 50 over 1, and 50 over 1 just simplifies to 50. Example 2, we've got 4/9 of 5 and 5/8. So the first thing we need to do is write it's 4/9 multiplied by 5 and 5/8. We need to change the 5 and 5/8 into a top-heavy fraction. So there are 8 eighths in one whole. There's going to be 40 eighths in 5 wholes. So that means there's 45 eighths in 5 and 5/8. So now we look to see where we can cancel. So we don't cancel sideways, we've got to cancel top and bottom. And 4 and 8 are both divisible by 4, and they'll divide to give 1 and 2. And 45 and 9 are both divisible by 9 to leave 1 and 5. So once we do that, we multiply across the top and across the bottom, and we've got 1 multiplied by 5 over 1 multiplied by 2. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. We've got 5 over 2, which is an improper fraction. So we need to change that back into a mixed number, and that's 2 and 1/2. Example 3, Ben was given £60 birthday money. He spent 3/5 going out with friends, 1/8 on a magazine. How much did he spend going out? So going out was 3/5 of the 60. So that's going to be 3/5 of 60, which is 3/5 multiplied by 60, but I'm going to put the 60 over 1. We then look and see where we can cancel, and the 5 and the 60 cancel to give 1 and 12, so dividing both of those by 5. 3 and 12 could be divided by 3, but remember we don't cancel sideways, we only cancel a top with a bottom. So now we multiply across, and we get 3 times 12 over 1 times 1, which is 36 over 1, which is £36. So Ben spent £36 on going out with his friends. And on the magazine, so he spent 1/8 of 60, which is 1/8 multiplied by 60, and again it's going to be 60 over 1. We can cancel 8 and 60 by dividing through by 4 to leave 2 and 15. So multiply across the tops and across the bottoms, you get 1 times 15 over 2 times 1, which is 15 over 2, which simplifies to 7.5. Now £7.5 doesn't really, well, it does make sense, but it's not something that we would usually refer to as. So we need to do £7, and then half of a pound is 50p. So it's going to be £7.50.